college soccer, you know, it's...
The problem is that in the rest of the world, the scholastic game and the club game is the same. The only place that it's really different is in the USA. That's the problem.
We have an opinion at the end of the day.
I have a question for
I mean, it's a tough one. I think you have to mandate it, if I'm honest. The reason I'm saying that is coming from England and growing up in that background where the opportunities to reach the highest level are a lot more available. You know, to play at a pro club, to get a college scholarship, to play for the national team, it's much more available because things have been put in place in the past. I think if you still leave the choice now, I think 5 years down the line you're going to have this debate again saying, should we not mandate it? I think what they're trying to do, and I don't know as much as the development academies about, you know, these guys do, but I think they're trying to make a stance and say, okay, in the next 5 years, if we make this change today, we'll see the results 3, 4, 5 years down the line. If we leave it open to chance, we might not. Now, there's two important points on that. I mean, in England, right now, the academy structure is going to radically change yet again. They're going to take every single academy in England and categorise them by the best ones, second best, third best and fourth best. Basically saying, however many players they've produced over the past 10, 15 years, it's not enough and the national team's suffering. So they're now going to radically revamp the academy system, and it's going to hurt an awful lot of top clubs because they've not put enough emphasis on youth development. So they're doing something such as radical as that. I don't see this change personally as that big a change. Another instant in Europe is they've started a Youth Champions League. So obviously the greatest competition, club competition in the world right now, I think everyone would agree, is the Champions League. They've started a Youth Champions League at U19 for players to get acclimatised to that level much earlier. So again, it's something to be put in place for, you know, a couple of years down the line. I just think if they don't mandate it, 5 years down the line, you're having the same problems you are now.
Quick last question for Mike. Other than Diane, who's the best Noonan player?
Yeah, Mike, I mean, Mark, for the college coaches, if we have a 10-month season now regardless of high school or not, shouldn't the transition to college be the same if we really want to improve as a country? I mean, these guys are restricted by 3-month seasons. You can play here, and there. So we're trying to tap into the youth market and change the way we do things and extend our season. And then they go to school for 4 years and play 3 months out of the year. And those are the players who are eventually going to MLS.
Yeah, that's not completely accurate. You go to college and you play your 3, hopefully 4.5 months if you make it into the tournament. You get a small break and a small window over winter break, and then you come back and you start training again. So you have less training in the winter than you do in the fall, and then it picks up again during the spring. I think I would love to be able to have my team on a more regular basis, but you know, from my perspective, as I hear everyone talk, I think that what I'm hearing is that the argument on the table is should you choose the academy, and by choosing the academy you're not choosing high school soccer, and maybe it's a little bit of me being naive, but there is a choice. There is a choice to be made. It's unfortunate that they've positioned it during a time frame where kids have transitioned into one arena, but you do have a choice. No one is telling you that you have to do one or you have to do the other. And so I think everyone has strong positions based on their personal belief. But the reality is the only belief that matters is what's in your child's best interest. And if it's in your child's best interest to go in one direction or the other, you have that choice. It may not be exactly what you want, but if we're looking for U.S. soccer to take a step in the next direction, I would argue that we do have the facts. The facts are negative. The facts are that we are behind the curve. The facts are that we haven't produced what U.S. soccer is supposed to produce. And that league, that one specific league, and there are many leagues in the country, that league is run by U.S. soccer. And so it's their responsibility for our national team to make choices and make decisions. But again, that's their choice and their decision in one league. I think that there are choices out there, and it's unfortunate, but decisions are going to have to start to be made. But you have choices, and to say that you don't, it may not be the ideal choice. It may not be exactly what you're looking for, but you have an opportunity to choose.
Another question in the audience? Dan Donovan, I helped put this program together, though I wasn't responsible for the curtain. It's falling down in front of everybody.
You're fired.
You as a Division I soccer coach, do you care when you're recruiting players, because there are a lot of parents here who want to know, both you guys, do you care if a kid plays Academy, Premier, we'll go with Academy and Premier in high school. Do you care? When you look at the kid's resume, what do you think?
I care how much they play and the environment that they play in. I want to see them play in an environment that fosters their development. I want to see them play in an environment that challenges them. And that environment needs to be conducive to my selection. That's the process that I look at as a college coach. I think there are great high school programs that do a wonderful, wonderful job. I think there are great regional programs that play in our Region 1 league that do a great job. And I think there are great academy programs. But for me, my analysis is not during training. My analysis is during games. In competition, in games, what is the greatest environment? And are you placing yourself there as a potential student athlete for me to evaluate you? Because when you get to college soccer, if you thought the transition from junior high school to high school was big, or if you've made the transition to an elite playing team in any environment, the next step is that much more intense. So for me, the environment is what's important, not where the environment is, that you're in the environment.
I'd echo the same. I mean, every year, 3 times a year, the residency program that Steve talked about down in Bradenton brings in a pool of players that aren't academy players. So they're looking all over the country. We're looking all over the country for the best players. And the game will find you. And then it does go back to the environment. I think the other thing that, in terms of information, is that the academy program, when it started, just like the MLS, you got to remember, these programs are in their infancy. When you open a restaurant, right, you haven't made it at a restaurant until you've been open for 7 years. And so, going back to my initial statement, these are evolving things. My brother worked in the MLS in its infancy, and I used to call him on the phone and say, Mark, they made up some new rules that nobody understands again. They keep changing the rules in the midstream. And I said, how can you be legitimate if you keep changing the rules? What was part of the development? Well, guess what? The MLS kept on changing the rules and making the league better. And now we've got a league that's one of the best leagues in the world in terms of attendance, in terms of the game, and places for our players to aspire to be. The developmental academy's done the same thing. I remember my colleagues being furious when it started, because it was all about that 1% player. And the colleges were being ignored, and they didn't care about the colleges, and every kid's going to go to college in America. And I can tell you that the arguments that we had, you remember, right? Well, now, as soon as you show up to an academy event, the college coaches are welcome, embraced, they're put on, highlighted to know which colleges are there. And I think with this type of situation, it'll happen as well, and it'll evolve. They're trying something. Let's see how it goes. Again, I don't like the strong-handedness of it. That's my personal opinion. But I think that they'll be flexible enough that if it doesn't work, they'll make adjustments to that as well. So I think that, you know, it's something that may be distasteful a little bit at a time, but the model that's been put in front of us is something that, as Alex just said, you know, everybody's got to change, everybody's got to adapt, you've got to get better. The one thing that hasn't been addressed here that we see in the college level that's a little bit different, that's not addressed in the academy as much as it is in high school, is you don't have a freshman playing with a senior in the academy. And we have freshmen that come into our program that have to play with men and they're boys. And in high school, that does happen. In high school, that does happen. And as Danny alluded to, I went to the upper state final. I got off a plane and went to, from Europe and went to the upper state final in South Carolina. And you guys want to talk about different levels of soccer. Come on down to South Carolina in comparison to Connecticut. But there were 3,000 kids